The crystal amphitheater floated in the dark space between stars, its walls glowing with soft blue light. Inside, representatives from 847 different alien species sat in their assigned seats. The air hummed with translation devices, turning thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Admiral Kextar adjusted his ceremonial armor as he looked down at the small holographic display floating in the center of the room. The image showed a blue and green planet with white clouds swirling around it. Earth, they called it. The third rock from a yellow star in what the inhabitants called the Milky Way galaxy. "The motion before us today is simple," announced Speaker Velthara, her crystal body catching the light as she spoke. "Do we grant this new species membership in the Galactic Council, or do we classify them as a resource to be managed?" Kexter almost laughed. It wasn't really a question at all. He had studied the reports about these humans for months. They were pathetic. Still using chemical rockets to barely reach their own moon. Still fighting wars with metal bullets and explosive bombs. They had only just figured out how to split atoms, and they used that knowledge to blow each other up. The Dominion fleet had conquered species far more advanced than these humans. The last race they had defeated was using plasma weapons and force fields. These Earth creatures were still throwing rocks compared to that. "Let us review the evidence," Velthara continued. She waved a crystalline hand and new images appeared. Cities made of concrete and steel, flying machines with spinning blades, ships that moved across water using burning fuel. "They have no faster-than-light travel," reported the Zephyrian delegate, his green skin glistening under the lights. "No energy shields. No quantum computers. They cannot even leave their own solar system." "Their weapons are primitive," added another voice from the crowd. "Kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. They pose no threat to even our oldest warships." Kextar nodded. He had seen the data himself. The humans had tried to hide their nuclear weapons, thinking they were powerful. But nuclear bombs were toys compared to antimatter charges or gravity missiles. A single Dominion destroyer could glass their entire planet in an afternoon. "What about their physical capabilities?" asked a delegate from the Hive Collective. The insect-like creature clicked its mandibles as it spoke. "Weak," came the reply from the research division. "Average lifespan of only 80 years. Poor eyesight. Limited hearing range. They cannot survive in most atmospheric conditions without protective gear. They are soft-bodied and injury-prone." More laughter rippled through the assembly. 80 years was nothing. Kextar himself was over 300 years old and still in his prime. His people regularly lived for 1,000 years. These humans were like mayflies. "They do show some interesting qualities," admitted the research delegate. "They are adaptable. They seem to work well in groups. They have colonized every continent on their planet, even the frozen ones in the deserts." "So do bacteria," growled a delegate from the Void Touched. "That doesn't make them worthy of our respect." Kexatar stood up from his seat. All eyes turned to him. As the Supreme Admiral of the Dominion Fleet, his word carried weight in the Council. "I have reviewed all the data on these humans," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "They are exactly what we need. Strong enough to be useful workers, smart enough to follow complex instructions, but weak enough that they will never threaten us." He gestured to the holographic Earth. "The Zephyrians need miners for their asteroid operations. The crystalline hegemony requires organic processors for their biocomputers. The Void Touched want new subjects for their experiments. These humans can serve all our needs." "But Admiral," called out a voice from the upper seats, "what if they resist?" Kextar's forearms spread wide in a gesture of dismissal. "With what? Their flying machines that move slower than sound? Their metal bullets that bounce off our armor? Their nuclear bombs that barely scratch our shields?" He pulled up a tactical display, showing human military capabilities compared to just one Dominion frigate. The difference was laughable. The human Air Force couldn't even reach orbit. Their navies were trapped on the surface of their water oceans. Their armies marched around on foot or in wheeled vehicles. "It will take us maybe 3 months to subdue their entire planet," Kextar continued. 1 month to destroy their military. 1 month to set up processing centers. 1 month to begin shipping the useful ones to where they are needed. The chamber buzzed with excited conversation. Many species had been looking for new sources of labor. The humans seemed perfect. Not advanced enough to be dangerous, but intelligent enough to be valuable. "There is one more thing to consider," said Speaker Velthara. "Our scouts report that the humans have been trying to make contact with us. They have been sending radio signals into space for decades. They seem eager to join a galactic community. This brought more laughter from the assembly. The poor stupid humans were actually trying to get the attention of species that were about to enslave them. It was almost sad. That makes our job easier, said Kextar. They want to meet us. We can use that. Tell them we are friendly explorers. Get them to gather in their major cities for first contact celebrations. Then we activate our capture fields and sort them by usefulness. A delegate from the Merchant Guild stood up. What about their planet's resources? The scans show significant mineral wealth, water, organic compounds. Of course, Kextar agreed. The planet itself will become a supply depot for the fleet. We strip mine what we need and convert the rest into agricultural zones to feed the workers. Speaker Velthara raised her crystal staff. The motion is clear. All those in favor of classifying the human species as a managed resource, raise your voting appendage. Arms, tentacles, wings, and other limbs rose throughout the chamber. Kextar quickly counted. Every single delegate voted yes. 847 to 0. It wasn't even close. The motion passes unanimously, Velthara announced. Admiral Kextar, you are authorized to begin the harvesting operation immediately. The Galactic Council expects this matter to be resolved within 1 standard year. Kextar saluted with all 4 arms. It will be my pleasure, Speaker. These humans won't know what hit them. As the delegates began filing out of the chamber, chattering excitedly about their new acquisition, none of them noticed the small observation deck near the top of the amphitheater. In the shadows there, 3 figures in dark clothing watched everything. Through advanced recording equipment, the figures were human. They had arrived at the Galactic Core 3 weeks earlier using technology that the Council didn't know existed. They had watched. They had listened. They had recorded every word of the trial. Now they activated their quantum communicator and sent an encrypted message across the galaxy to a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Command, this is Observer Team Alpha, whispered the team leader into her communicator. The vote has been taken. 847 to 0 for immediate enslavement. They're planning to begin operations within the month. Understood, Alpha Team, came the reply from Earth. Fall back to extraction point. It's time to wake up the others. The 3 humans slipped away into the darkness, leaving the aliens to celebrate what they thought was their greatest victory. They had no idea it would become their greatest mistake. The first alien ships appeared over Earth's major cities exactly 30 days after the Council vote. They came in massive black vessels that blocked out the sun, their hulls gleaming with unknown metals and pulsing with energy. Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable, watching the planet below through the viewing screens. Earth looked so peaceful from up here. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. Soon it would all belong to the Galactic Council. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the surface, reported his communications officer. Multiple languages, but the translation computers are working on them. What are they saying? Kextar asked, not really caring about the answer. Please don't hurt us. We surrender. We want to negotiate. The usual panic responses. Kextar nodded. It was always the same. Every species begged when they saw the true power of the galactic community. These humans would be no different. Begin Phase 1, he ordered. Target their military installations first. Make it quick and clean. We want the workers intact. The fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, turning military bases into glass craters. Aircraft fell from the sky as their electronics were fried by electromagnetic pulses. Naval ships simply stopped working, their crews trapped on vessels that had become floating coffins. The humans tried to fight back. They launched their primitive nuclear missiles, but the warheads bounced harmlessly off the fleet's shields. Some of their fighter jets managed to reach the lower atmosphere, but they were swatted down like insects. Within 6 hours, every major military installation on Earth had been destroyed or disabled. The planet's defenses were finished. Phase 2, Kextar announced. Begin landing operations. Smaller ships descended from the fleet, each one carrying 1,000 Dominion soldiers. They landed in major cities around the globe: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, Mumbai, São Paulo. The soldiers wore powered armor that made them look like metal giants. Their weapons could punch through concrete walls or stun entire crowds of humans at once. The conquest went exactly as planned. Human governments surrendered within hours. Police and military units that tried to resist were quickly overwhelmed. The aliens set up command posts in government buildings and began broadcasting instructions to the terrified population. "Attention, humans," the message said in dozens of languages. "Your planet is now under the protection of the Galactic Council. For your own safety, you must report to the processing centers that are being established in your cities. Bring identification documents and any special skills certifications. Families will be kept together when possible." Most humans believed it. They lined up at the processing centers thinking they were being relocated for their own safety. The aliens scanned them with strange devices, sorting them into different categories based on their health, intelligence, and physical capabilities. The strongest and smartest humans were loaded onto transport ships and taken to the orbital stations. From there, they would be distributed to whichever alien species had bought them. The weak and old were left behind to work on converting Earth into a supply. Depot Kextar established his command center in what had been the United Nations building in New York. He sat in the Secretary General's chair, reviewing reports from his field commanders. "Resistance is minimal," reported General Thexra. "A few small groups are hiding in remote areas, but they pose no threat. Our patrols eliminate them whenever they surface." "What about resource extraction?" Kexter asked, proceeding on schedule. "The mining operations in Australia are already producing rare metals. The ocean platforms are harvesting minerals from the seafloor. We estimate the planet will be fully converted within 2 years." Kextar smiled. Everything was going perfectly. The humans were broken. Their planet was being stripped for resources, and the Council was already receiving the first shipments of workers and materials. But as the months passed, something began to change. At first, it was small things. Supply convoys would disappear between cities. Guard posts would go silent for no apparent reason. Equipment would malfunction in ways that the repair teams couldn't explain. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Cavdell, one of Kextar's intelligence officers, "we're seeing increased coordination among the resistance groups. They're using communication methods we can't intercept." "Impossible," Kextar replied. "We destroyed their satellite networks and communication towers in the first day of the invasion." "Yes, sir, but they seem to have backup systems we didn't detect. More concerning, they're using weapons and tactics that don't match our intelligence on human capabilities." Kextar frowned. "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, a patrol near Chicago was attacked by humans using some kind of energy weapons. Not the chemical explosives we expected. Real energy weapons that cut through our armor like it was paper. Show me the footage." The holographic display showed shaky camera footage from a soldier's helmet. The patrol was moving through a ruined street when beams of brilliant white light came from nowhere. The beams sliced through the aliens' power armor like it was made of soft metal. The soldiers barely had time to scream before they were cut down. "Where did they get energy weapons?" Kextar demanded. "We don't know, sir. Our analysts say the technology doesn't match anything in their databases. It's not based on any known principles." More reports came in over the following weeks. Alien facilities were being sabotaged by humans who seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. Transport ships carrying human slaves to other star systems were being intercepted by unknown vessels that the long-range sensors couldn't properly track. Most disturbing of all, humans who had been sent to work in the outer colonies were vanishing without explanation. The Zephyrian mining operation in the Kepler system reported that 300 human workers had simply disappeared overnight, leaving behind strange energy signatures that their equipment couldn't identify. "Admiral," came an urgent communication from the bridge crew. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously." "Put it through," Kextar ordered. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a middle-aged woman with short gray hair and calm, steady eyes. She was sitting in what looked like a simple office chair, but behind her, strange lights pulsed in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Admiral Kextar," the woman said, speaking in perfect Dominion Common. "My name is Director Sarah Chen. We need to talk." "Who are you?" Kextar demanded. "How did you learn our language?" "We've been listening to your communications since the day you arrived," Chen replied. "We know about the council vote. We know about your plans for our people and our planet. Most importantly, we know that you've made a very serious mistake. You're in no position to make threats, human. Your species is already defeated." Chen smiled, and somehow that expression was more terrifying than any alien weapon Kextar had ever faced. "Admiral, You attacked us because you thought we were weak. You're about to learn the difference between being weak and choosing to appear weak. We gave you every chance to approach us as friends. You chose to see us as slaves instead. Your resistance fighters are nothing more than insects, Kextar snarled. My forces will crush them. Your forces are already being crushed, Admiral. You just don't know it yet. Over the past 3 months, you've lost 47% of your ground troops, 60% of your supply convoys, and 12 of your orbital platforms. Your allies throughout the galaxy are reporting similar losses. Kextar felt ice forming in his stomach. Impossible. We would have detected major military operations. You detected what we wanted you to detect. The question now is whether you're smart enough to cut your losses, or if we need to educate you further. The transmission ended, leaving Kextar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers looked confused and worried. They had all heard the reports, but no one had put them together like this. Get me a full status report on all our operations, Kextar ordered. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. As the reports came in over the next few hours, the truth became clear. The humans weren't just resisting. They were winning, and they were doing it with technology that shouldn't exist. Kextar looked out at the blue planet below and felt the first stirrings of real fear. What had the Council awakened? Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring out at the stars. 3 weeks had passed since Director Chen's message, and the situation had only gotten worse. His fleet had lost contact with 6 more orbital platforms. Ground forces were reporting attacks by invisible enemies using impossible weapons. Admiral, called out his sensor operator. I'm picking up some strange readings near the edge of the system. What kind of readings? Energy signatures that don't match anything in our databases. They're coming from empty space, Kextar frowned. Empty space didn't generate energy signatures. Show me. The main screen displayed a tactical view of Earth's solar system. Small red dots appeared near the outer planets, blinking in and out of existence like fireflies. They keep disappearing, the operator explained. Our sensors detect them for a few seconds, then they vanish completely. It's like they're not really there. Stealth technology, Kextar concluded. The humans must have better hiding capabilities than we thought. But even as he said it, he knew something was wrong. No stealth technology was perfect. There were always traces, always some way to detect a hidden ship. These contacts were appearing and disappearing in ways that violated basic physics. Admiral, the communications officer's voice was sharp with panic. We're receiving an emergency transmission from Fleet Command. The Zephyrian home system is under attack. Impossible. The Zephyrian system is 300 light-years away. Even if the humans had faster-than-light ships, which they don't, it would take them months to reach it. Sir, the message is only 20 minutes old. They're asking for immediate assistance. Kextar felt that cold feeling in his stomach again. Something was very wrong here. Put the transmission through. The screen showed Admiral Yexkala, the Zephyrian fleet commander. His usually calm green features were twisted with fear and confusion. Kextar, you need to know what's happening here. Ships appeared out of nowhere. Not normal space travel. They just materialized. No hyperspace signatures, no quantum wake traces. 1 second empty space, the next second there were hundreds of vessels. What do they look like? Kextar asked. Like nothing I've ever seen. Smooth, organic curves, but clearly artificial. They're pure white, like they're made of light itself. And their weapons? Yexkala shuddered. They're not just destroying our ships. They're doing something to space-time around us. One of my cruisers got hit by their beam and just folded in on itself. Like reality broke. The transmission suddenly filled with alarms and shouting voices. Through the chaos, Kextar could hear weapons fire and the sound of hull breaches. They're taking our people, Yexkala shouted over the noise. They're rescuing every human in the system and taking them somewhere we can't follow. Our pursuit ships just vanish when they try to track them. The transmission cut to static. Kextar stared at the blank screen. The Zephyrian home fleet was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. If they were being destroyed by unknown ships that could appear from nowhere. Admiral, his tactical officer called out. I'm reading massive spatial distortions throughout the system. It's like space itself is bending. All ships to battle stations, Kextar ordered. Raise shields and power weapons. Whatever's coming, we'll be ready. But as the words left his mouth, every light on the bridge went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing the bridge in red light. But the damage was already clear. Every system on the ship was dead. Life support was running on backup power. The engines were silent. Even the artificial gravity was fluctuating. What happened? Kextar demanded. I don't know, sir. It's like something drained all our power at once. But the readings don't show any energy weapons hitting us. Through the viewing port, Kextar could see that every ship in his fleet was dark. Hundreds of vessels that had been blazing with lights and energy were now floating lifeless in space. And then he saw them. Ships began appearing around the fleet. Not arriving, not decloaking, but simply coming into existence as if they had always been there. They were exactly as Yexkala had described, pure white, flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. There were thousands of them. How many? Kexter whispered. Sensors are still offline, sir. I can only count what I can see through the viewport. But Kextar could see enough. The human ships surrounded his entire fleet like wolves circling sheep. They moved without visible engines, flowing through space as smoothly as fish through water. Incoming transmission, the communications officer reported. Director Chen's face appeared on the screen again, but this time she wasn't sitting in a simple office. She was standing on what looked like the bridge of a ship, surrounded by technology that made Kextar's most advanced equipment look like stone tools. Hello again, Admiral, she said pleasantly. I think it's time we had a proper conversation. How? Kextar asked. It was the only word he could manage. How what, Admiral? How did we build this fleet? How did we develop faster than light travel? How did we create weapons that can manipulate the basic forces of reality? Chen walked closer to the screen, and Kextar could see something in her eyes that terrified him. Not anger or hatred, but a kind of sad disappointment. The real question, Admiral, is how you could have been so blind. Did you really think a species could spread across an entire planet, survive ice ages and asteroid impacts, build cities and art and music and literature, without having something special inside them? Your technology was primitive, Kextar protested. Your ships couldn't even leave your solar system. The ships you saw were meant to be seen, Chen replied. We've had faster-than-light travel for 40 years, Admiral. We've had quantum computers for 30 years. We've had matter-energy conversion for 20 years. We've been watching the galaxy and learning about all of you for decades. Then why didn't you reveal yourselves? Why hide? Chen's expression grew sad. Because we hoped you might be better than you are. We sent out signals hoping to find friends among the stars. Instead, we found predators who saw kindness as weakness. She gestured and new images appeared on the screen. Human colonies on distant worlds, cities built inside asteroids, ships that dwarfed anything in Kextar's fleet. While you were fighting over territory and enslaving other species, we were growing, learning, preparing. We scattered ourselves across the galaxy and waited to see what you would do when you found us. The humans in the outer systems, Kextar realized, the ones who were disappearing, were never really prisoners, Chen confirmed. Our people volunteered to be captured so they could gather intelligence and wait for the rescue signal. Every human you thought you enslaved was actually a spy. The implications hit Kextar like a physical blow. If the humans had been planning this for decades, if they had technology beyond anything in the galactic databases, if they had been watching and preparing, what do you want? He asked. Right now? Our people back. All of them. Every human taken from Earth or captured in space. We want them returned safely, and we want your fleets to withdraw from our system. And if we refuse? Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Admiral, in the past hour, every alien military installation within 50 light-years of Earth has gone dark. Your friends in the crystalline hegemony are discovering that their biocomputers have been infected with viruses that turn them into pretty paperweights. The Void Touched are finding out what happens when their experiments develop minds of their own. She leaned forward, and when she spoke again, her voice was cold as space. You wanted to enslave humanity, Admiral. Instead, you taught us that the galaxy is full of monsters. Now we're going to do something about that. You're declaring war on the entire galactic community? No, Chen replied. We're declaring peace. Our kind of peace. The kind where nobody gets to own anyone else ever again. Around Kextar's fleet, the white ships began to move. They flowed through space like liquid light, and wherever they went, alien vessels simply stopped. Not destroyed, not damaged, just shut down. Surrender now, Chen said, and your crews will be returned safely to your homeworlds. Keep fighting, and we'll show you why your ancestors should have taught you to be kind to strangers. Kextar looked around his darkened bridge, at his terrified crew, at the thousands of impossible ships surrounding his fleet. He thought about the reports coming in from across the galaxy, about the humans who had been watching and planning and waiting. He thought about the 847 species who had voted to enslave Earth, and he wondered if any of them would survive what they had awakened. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 1,000-year history. Instead of the usual orderly gathering in the Crystal Amphitheater, delegates huddled in a secure bunker deep inside an asteroid, hidden from the human ships that now patrolled the galaxy. Speaker Velthara's crystal form flickered with stress patterns as she addressed the terrified assembly. Only half the usual delegates were present. The others were either missing, dead, or trapped on their homeworlds by the human blockade. "The situation is clear," she announced, her voice shaking. "The humans have revealed capabilities that exceed our worst projections. Fleet Command estimates they have destroyed or disabled 60% of our combined military assets in the past month." A wail came from the Zephyrian delegation. "They took our entire home fleet. 3,000 ships gone in an hour. At least your people are alive," snarled the void-touched representative. "The humans turned our experimental subjects against us. Our own labs became battlegrounds. They rescued every prisoner and left our facilities in ruins." Admiral Kekstar sat in the prisoner's dock, his forearms chained but his eyes alert. He had been captured during the surrender at Earth and brought here as a witness. The humans could have killed him easily, but instead they had delivered him to the Council with a message: learn from his mistakes. "Admiral," Speaker Velthara addressed him directly, "you were in command of the Earth operation. Explain to us how this happened." Kekstar stood as much as his chains allowed. "They were ready for us. Had been ready for decades. Everything we thought we knew about them was wrong. That's impossible. Our intelligence was thorough. Our intelligence saw what they wanted us to see." Kekstar's voice was bitter. "While we were watching their primitive rockets and nuclear bombs, they were building a fleet that makes ours look like toys. While we thought they were trapped on one planet, they had already spread to hundreds of star systems." A nervous chittering came from the Hive collective delegation, but how could they hide such massive operations? Our deep space sensors should have detected industrial activity on that scale. "They don't use industrial activity like we do," Kekstar explained. "I've seen their ships, their technology. They don't mine asteroids or build factories. They convert matter directly into whatever they need. Raw atoms become finished products in seconds." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If the humans could create anything from basic matter, they didn't need supply lines, factories, or resource extraction. They were completely self-sufficient. "What about their numbers?" asked a delegate from the Merchant Guild. "Even with advanced technology, how many humans can there be?" Kekstar laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. "That's what I asked my human captors. Do you know what they told me? They said that every human ship contains the digital patterns of millions more humans. They can create new bodies and transfer consciousness into them. Death for them is temporary." Horrified gasps echoed through the chamber. The humans weren't just technologically superior. They were functionally immortal. "There's more," Kekstar continued. "They've been studying us for 40 years. They know our languages, our cultures, our weaknesses. Some of them have been living among us, pretending to be aliens from minor species. They know everything about us, and we know nothing about them." Speaker Velthara's crystal form pulsed with agitation. "Surely they can be negotiated with. All species want something. Territory, resources, power. We can make a deal." "I thought the same thing," Kekstar replied. "But you're not understanding what we're dealing with. They don't want territory because they can create their own worlds. They don't need resources because they can make matter from energy. They don't want power over us. Then what do they want? Justice." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Every delegate knew what it meant. The Council had built its power by conquering weaker species, enslaving or destroying those who couldn't defend themselves. If the humans wanted justice for those crimes— "Delegates," came a new voice from the chamber's communication system. "This is Director Chen of the Human Federation. We need to talk." Panic swept through the assembly. If the humans had found this hidden bunker, nowhere was safe. Chen's image appeared in the center of the chamber, transmitted by technology that bypassed all their security systems. She looked tired but determined, standing in what appeared to be a command center filled with displays showing the galaxy. "Hello, speakers of the Galactic Council. I'm sorry we couldn't meet under better circumstances, but you made that choice when you voted to enslave my people. Director Chen, Speaker Velthara said, trying to keep her voice steady. We are prepared to negotiate a peaceful solution to this conflict. Are you? Chen asked. Because from where I stand, you're hiding in a bunker, while your fleets attack our rescue operations. Just this morning, Dominion forces tried to stop us from liberating human slaves from the Kepler mining facility. Those were not authorized attacks, Velthara protested. Of course they were. You're still trying to win a war you've already lost. Let me show you something. The chamber's displays lit up with tactical information. Red dots representing alien military assets. Blue dots representing human forces. The pattern was clear. The humans were everywhere. These are the current positions of our fleets, Chen explained. We have ships in every major star system in the galaxy. Not armies, not invasion forces. Small groups just watching, waiting. Waiting for what? Demanded the Void Touch delegate. For you to make a choice. You can accept the new reality and work with us to build something better, or you can keep fighting and face the consequences. Chen waved her hand, and the display changed. Now it showed biological data, population figures, genetic analysis, medical records. We've been studying your species just as thoroughly as you studied ours. We know your weaknesses, your diseases, your psychological pressure points. We know exactly how to break each of your civilizations if we have to. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. The humans weren't just militarily superior. They had dissected every species in the galaxy and found ways to destroy them. But we don't want to destroy you, Chen continued. Believe it or not, we still hope for a better outcome. We've seen the art your people create, the music, the literature. We know you're capable of more than conquest and slavery. Then what are your terms? Speaker Velthara asked. Simple. Every enslaved species in the galaxy goes free. Every slave labor operation shuts down. Every prison planet becomes a nature preserve. The Galactic Council dissolves, and in its place we build something new. A real confederation where all species are equal. Outraged voices filled the chamber. Impossible. We'll never agree. Our entire economy depends on managed resources. Chen waited for the noise to die down. I thought you might say that. Which is why we're implementing the transition whether you agree or not. New displays appeared, showing star systems across the galaxy. In each one, human ships were broadcasting messages to enslaved populations, teaching them how to build their own freedom movements. We're giving every oppressed species the tools they need to free themselves. Communication devices that you can't intercept, weapons that can punch through your armor, medical technology that will heal the damage you've done to them. You're starting a galactic revolution, breathed one of the delegates. We're finishing one, Chen corrected. You started it when you decided that might makes right. Now you get to learn what happens when someone mightier disagrees. Admiral Kextar looked around the chamber at the terrified faces of the delegates. These were the beings who had ruled the galaxy for centuries, who had crushed entire civilizations under their boots. Now they were cowering like children. Director, he called out, surprising everyone. What happens to those of us who participated in the old system? Are we all to be executed? Chen looked at him for a long moment. That depends, Admiral. Are you willing to spend the rest of your life making amends for what you've done? Because that's the only way any of you survive this. I don't understand. Every species that participated in slavery will have a choice. Work with us to repair the damage you've caused. Help the freed peoples rebuild their worlds. Dedicate your resources to healing instead of harming. Do that and you can be part of the new galaxy we're building. And if we refuse? Chen's expression grew cold. Then you become irrelevant. We isolate your systems, cut you off from galactic civilization, and let you figure out how to survive on your own. No more slave labor, no more conquered peoples to exploit. Just you alone in space with whatever you can build with your own hands. The chamber erupted in arguments and shouting. Some delegates demanded they fight to the end. Others begged for mercy. A few wise ones began calculating what it would take to appease these terrifying humans. But Admiral Kextar just sat quietly in his chains, watching the civilization he had served crumble around him. The humans had done more than defeat the Galactic Council. They had exposed it for what it really was, a gang of bullies who had never learned to share. Now the bullies were about to learn what happened when the victims fought back. And Kextar found himself hoping that some of them would be smart, enough to choose redemption over destruction. Because if they weren't, He had seen enough of human capabilities to know that the galaxy was about to become a very lonely pea. The crystal amphitheater had been rebuilt, but everything else was different. Where once 847 species had sat as equals in judgment, now most of the seats were empty. Only 200 delegates remained, representing the species that had chosen cooperation over destruction. The others had made their choice. 63 species had chosen isolation rather than surrender their slave-based economies. They now lived behind barriers that human technology had placed around their systems, cut off from the galaxy they had once dominated. Some of them were already fighting civil wars as their societies collapsed without enslaved labor to support them. Admiral Kextar no longer wore chains. Instead, he wore the simple gray uniform of a rehabilitation counselor, helping other former slavers adjust to the new reality. It had taken 3 years of working in refugee camps and rebuilding destroyed worlds before the humans had trusted him with even this small responsibility. But today was different. Today was the final hearing. The human delegation sat in the center of the amphitheater, not in the elevated speaker's position, but at the same level as everyone else. Director Chen had insisted on that change. "We're not here to rule you," she had said. "We're here to make sure no one rules anyone else." Speaker Velthara, her crystal form now a pale shadow of its former brightness, called the session to order. This tribunal will now hear the final accounting of the Terran integration crisis. It was a polite name for what had really happened. The humans called it the liberation. Most others called it the end of everything. Director Chen, Velthara continued, "The Council recognizes the Human Federation as the primary authority in this matter. We are ready to hear your final judgment." Chen stood up slowly. She looked older than she had 5 years ago when this all started. The responsibility of remaking galactic civilization had aged her in ways that her people's life extension technology couldn't fix. "Before we begin," she said, "I want everyone here to remember how we got to this point. 5 years ago, this council voted 847 to 0 to enslave my species. Not one voice was raised in our defense. Not one delegate suggested that enslaving an entire planet might be wrong." Uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. Everyone remembered that vote. Most of them had participated in it. "You made that choice because you saw us as weak. You thought weakness meant we deserved to be prey. Today you're going to learn the cost of that mistake." Chen gestured and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. They showed the current state of the galaxy. Free worlds where slave species had rebuilt their civilizations. Protected territories where endangered peoples could recover in peace. And dark zones where the unrepentant slavers sat alone in their self-imposed prisons. "The humans have kept their word," reported the Zephyrian delegate, who had replaced their former leadership. "Our people have been returned safely. Our damaged worlds have been helped to heal. We have been given the technology to make sure we never need slaves again." Similar reports came from other species. The crystalline hegemony had converted their biocomputers to synthetic systems that didn't require living brains. The reformed Void Touched had turned their experimental facilities into medical research centers that helped instead of harmed, but not everyone was happy with the changes. "Director Chen," called out a delegate from the Merchant Guild, "our economies are in ruins. Without managed labor, our production has fallen by 70%. Our people are struggling to adapt." "Good," Chen replied without sympathy. "Economies built on slavery deserve to collapse. Build new ones based on cooperation instead of exploitation. But the transition is too fast. Our people don't know how to do the work themselves. Then learn. The species you enslaved managed to survive without owning other people. I'm sure you can figure it out too." Admiral Kextar watched the exchange and remembered his own struggles in the early days. The Dominion Empire had collapsed almost overnight when they could no longer use slave soldiers and workers. Billions of his people had found themselves having to learn basic skills they had never needed before. Some had adapted. Others had retreated to the isolated systems, still dreaming of their lost glory. A few had chosen a third option that made Kextar sick to remember. "What about the Purge Worlds?" asked another delegate, his voice barely above a whisper. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew about the Purge Worlds, but no one liked to talk about them. Chen's expression grew dark. 17 species chose to destroy themselves rather than give up slavery. They used weapons of mass destruction against their own populations, believing that death was preferable to equality. She paused, letting the horror of that statement sink in. We tried to stop them. We had ships in position to intervene. But they were faster than we anticipated. 7 billion sentient beings died in the purge because their leaders couldn't imagine living without owning other people. Could you have prevented it? Speaker Velthera asked. Maybe. If we had been willing to conquer them completely, remove their leadership by force, occupy their worlds with our military, but then we would have become what we fought against. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate. That's the choice we faced from the beginning. We could have enslaved all of you, just like you planned to enslave us. We could have imposed our will by force and ruled the galaxy as conquerors. Instead, we chose to give you freedom. Even the freedom to make terrible choices. She gestured again, and new displays showed thriving worlds where former slaves had built new civilizations. But for every world that chose destruction, 10 others chose life. Species that had been enslaved for centuries are now exploring the stars as equals. Peoples who had been experiments are now conducting their own research. Children who would have been born into chains are growing up free. Admiral Kextar thought about his own children, now adults working to repair the damage their parents' generation had done. They would never know the pride of conquest, but they were learning the deeper satisfaction of creation. Which brings us to our final decision, Chen continued. The question before us today is what happens next. Do we maintain the current system, with humans as guardians and protectors, or do we try to build something new together? She walked to the center of the chamber, where a new symbol had been placed. Not the old Galactic Council's emblem of dominance, but a simple circle representing equality. The Human Federation is prepared to withdraw from galactic affairs. We've accomplished what we set out to do. Every enslaved species is free. Every slave world is liberated. Every former master is either reformed or isolated. We could return to our own space and leave you to govern yourselves. Hope flickered in some of the delegates' eyes, but Chen wasn't finished. However, if we do that, how long will it be before someone decides that their species deserves to rule over others? How long before another galactic council forms and votes to enslave whoever they see as weak? The uncomfortable truth settled over the chamber. Without human oversight, it was likely that some species would eventually return to their old ways. So here's our proposal, Chen said. We create a new organization. Not a council of rulers, but a federation of equals. Every species gets one vote, regardless of their military power or technological advancement. Decisions are made by consensus, not force. And if species refuse to join, ask the Merchant Guild representative. Then they remain free to govern themselves as long as they don't interfere with others. But they also don't get the benefits of galactic cooperation. No trade agreements, no shared technology, no mutual defense pacts. It was a simple choice, but Admiral Kextar could see the wisdom in it. Species that chose isolation would have to be completely self-sufficient. Most would find that impossible after centuries of exploiting others. What about enforcement? Speaker Velthara asked. Who ensures that the rules are followed? Chen smiled for the first time in the session. Everyone. We're establishing a galactic peace corps made up of volunteers from every member species. When conflicts arise, they respond with mixed teams representing multiple worlds. No one species gets to act as judge and jury. Including humans? Kexter asked. Especially humans. We'll be part of the system, not above it. Our advanced technology will be shared with all member species, so no one has an overwhelming advantage. The debate went on for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The alternative to cooperation was isolation, and isolation meant slow decline for most species. When the vote was finally called, it was unanimous, 200-0 in favor of the new Galactic Federation. As the delegates began filing out, discussing the details of implementation, Admiral Kextar approached Director Chen. Director, he said, I want to thank you. She looked surprised. For what? For showing us mercy. 5 years ago, when you had us at your complete mercy, you could have done to us what we planned to do to you. Instead, you gave us a chance to be better. Chen studied his face for a long moment. Admiral, do you know why we really came out of hiding when we did? Because we threatened to enslave you. No, we could have stopped that without revealing ourselves. We came out because we were tired of waiting for you to become worthy of the stars.